because I know that there are a lot of people that are interested. So I wanted to talk, I don't know how many of you, hi Christina, it's good to see you, and Amelia and Jacqueline. So I'm hoping that we can have, you know, I do a lot of presentations and I really want to do more of a discussion today. I'm a very firm believer in rhythm and movement for learning. I think we've just got to be moving our children more. We all need to be moving more, all of us. And I mean, maybe I'm just talking for me, but I tend to get over busy and I tend to be sitting too much. And I think our children are doing the same thing.
Yeah.
But it's not just the movement, because I think it's somewhat easy to include play movement into the day, but it's a lot more difficult to infuse a very highly structured program. Hi, everybody. It's great seeing everybody. I'm loving the idea of having a discussion with all of you. So I think the thing that I want to look at is the research is absolutely overwhelmingly positive about rhythm and the effect on learning and on lots of different areas of learning. So, you know, I think we all think that if we work on motor planning and motor activities and gross motor and fine motor, we're going to improve motor functioning. But there's absolutely incredible, overwhelming evidence that shows that rhythm and infusing a lot of rhythm into children's lives really impact academic learning. It's not just to improve motor skills. And we know improving motor skills makes a difference, but this really looks at actual learning, deep brain learning. So I think that highly structured rhythm, have all of you seen the rhythmic program that I've put online? Or have some of you not seen it? No. So you know what I'll do is I didn't want to make this, I'm not making this a presentation. I don't want to present anything, but I'll show you a little bit of where I'm coming from. But I want you guys to just jump in anytime you want to say something, anytime you have any input, because essentially I'm working on a project right now where I can say, where we can look at how rhythmic movement and very highly structured movement really impacts learning. Because as an older OT, I've been in this field for over 34 years now. The older I get, the more I realize we don't have time to be playing around with things that possibly might work or that look interesting or new and different things. We just don't have time for that. I think our children are a lot busier nowadays. They're a lot more stressed. We are all more stressed. But I think we're all really willing to try things that we really think have a very high likelihood of making a really big difference. And so apart from the research that's out there, because we can, you know, I think we do have to be looking at what the research shows so that we really are looking at starting off with evidence-based practice. But for our own children, how do we know that it really makes a difference? So what I did was, I'm going to, this is an online website, that's an oxymoron. This is a website I put together over the last few years, and it's really looking at a sensory regulation approach. And then it really looks at how rhythmic movement and other things as well, but really looking at how rhythmic movement makes a difference for sensory regulation, and then in turn, how all of that makes a difference for learning. So I've got a lot of videos out there. I've got courses online. I've got a lot of information about this, but this is available for everyone to use. It's totally free for everyone to use. There are hundreds of videos, and I'm creating lots and lots of videos all the time. It's not just videos though, because I'm really trying to put out a lot of content about how children learn. So the other, my training website is bridgetnicholson.com. I do have a slideshow that I've shared with you on the chat. So I will put I'm just going to make a note here, the link to I'll put that link onto the slideshow. But this is my training website. And I've got a lot of training and courses on the rhythmic movement program. But really the meeting today was, how do we know how rhythmic movement is making a difference for our children? So there's a lot of ways of doing rhythmic movement. I just put on a lot of videos because I didn't see anything out there that I thought could be used that was highly structured. So the program that I have is, there are different movement and sound levels. So there's movement level 1 all the way up to movement level 4. And I've got examples of what those different movement levels are. And then there are also different sound levels. And, you know, this is honestly why I love, I know that, Christina, who's the PT person that was Julie? You're PT, right? I'm going to stop sharing so we can see everyone on the screen. So OTs, I'm assuming some of you are OTs. Yeah, hands up, because if we all put our microphone on at the same time, it'd be chaos. And then PT, Julie, you're PT. The rest of you, I'm not able to see you, so I don't know. Drala, what are you? PT, OT, speech teacher, parent?
OT.
You're OT. So this is actually one of the reasons why I really like including all of our different approaches, and then parents as well. I'm a parent of a child with autism, and so I think that parents and their input is also important, because really from a home perspective as well, can we incorporate rhythmic movement into the home and into the academic school environment? And so for speech therapists, I do have, let me just get back to the correct screen here. I have a lot of speech therapists giving me input on the different sound levels and why different sound levels work at, you know, why we would include different elements in different sound levels. I have one group that's doing a research study on this whole program, and they emphasize the sound level first before the movement level. And I, as an OT, I tend to say, let's look at all these movement levels and then we'll look at where the sound is. But they were really looking at the sound levels first. But I think both are important, because that whole auditory integration and auditory perception is important, as well as the motor planning for movement. So I want to emphasize, when we're talking today, I want to emphasize highly structured and graded. So we're starting off with movement levels 1, and then going up to movement level 4. So how do we really look at measuring that? And so what I put together was the slideshow, which I did put in the link in the chat. And all I did was I've put together some ideas and thoughts, and I want your thoughts as well. But before I even talk about some of my thoughts and ideas, I do have a project that I'm working on to try and put a measurement system online. Because I know, after doing this for so many years, when we are trying to collect data and we're trying to fit data collection into our daily lives, it so seldom happens. I have to say, really honestly, the only really good data collection I've ever seen is in those cases where I've been involved in districts where there's a lot of contention and problems between parents and district, and where people are really unhappy about things. And then I see a lot of data being collected. But I don't really see a lot of data being collected just generally. And so I want to really look at how we can easily collect data to measure whether including rhythmic movement in a child's school day, does it really make a difference on academics? I'm not talking about on motor planning, because we know, as therapists, we know the more motor planning and movement and motor activities we do, we're going to see a difference. But does it really impact actual learning and actual achievement and performance? Those are my really big questions. And I want to see people I'm looking at all of you, you're all in different environments. I want to see people doing that in all of their different environments with their own unique individual children. Because research is great and all, but there's always that big question about, does that research done on that continent in a whole different country, is that research really relevant for my children and for their type of child? And so this is what I want to look at, is what do we do for our own kids? So I want to throw this out for discussion. We've set about an hour for this meeting. I'd like to know if you guys are using any kind of structured rhythmic movement. And if you are, how are you collecting data? And if you're not, what are your questions and just thoughts? Because I want to hear your thoughts before I start. I can throw out thoughts the whole entire rest of the day. So I want to throw it out to you before I throw out my ideas. And if you have nothing to say now, that's also fine, because as I'm talking, you can throw in your ideas as I'm talking.
Thoughts on what do you mean, like on the motor movement? And because I'm a teacher and I'm teaching the 4 to 5 year olds at the moment, and they move, like you say, children need to move. And so during class time, you know, like activities and things that we're doing, they do move around, but they also have a lot of playtime. But I do find that a lot of the children are sensory seeking, you know, they're chewing on their shirts or on the hat strings, and during circle time they cannot sit still. And so I was wondering, and I was starting to look into, like, maybe I should do more you know, like bear walking, or just like in between when we move from one place to another. Because even though they do go out, they have an hour playtime in the morning, and then later in the day they have another hour, and it's, you know, they do go on the jungle gym, they run around. But I don't find, especially because there's 4 classes on a playground at the same time, that the children don't really use the playground like they should. It's more of just running around and not really you know, like getting involved in using the monkey bars, for example, properly, or crawling through the tunnels. They're just getting busy and silly, basically. It's, you know, just running up and down, chasing each other, doing, which is fine, but, you know, like not really doing all those skills that you really want to see them do.
Yeah. So I think that the need for unstructured play and movement is very important, and we never ever want to take that away. And we want to give a lot of opportunities for play and creativity and unstructured movement and very expansive movement, and honestly, messy movement. I want to see kids inside and outside from a young age making a lot of mess. I really wish I could say to parents, when your children are growing up, let your house be messy and let them jump on things and let them climb on things, and don't keep your house perfect and keep your children well behaved inside. So, and I know there's a balance, but structured movement, my main question is about structured movement, because essentially your children that are going to struggle the most are going to be your children that don't take the chances on the monkey bars and the swings and the climbing stuff. Those are going to be your kids that are going to be safer with the way that they are moving. So highly structured movement, if you're starting off with not only highly structured movement and sound, but a really specific rhythm, that's what I think impacts. Megan, that's so funny. You're trying to not have your students on screen, and they like, that little boy is such a character. He's like, I want to be seen.
Their folders are right next to me that they have to get. They're working with another OT at the moment.
That's fine. It's just funny though, because you're like moving to try and not have them on screen, and then the one little one's like, I'm going to make sure that I'm on screen. So I think my big question, and you know, I must say I'm having a hard time getting the word out about this, because I think, you know, as OTs and as therapists, we've worked on sensory approaches and motor approaches for many, many, many years. And really, when you look at the research, when you look at the actual research on sensory-based approaches, and I'm not talking about sensory integration, the AIRS sensory integration, I'm not talking about that. That's another whole ballgame. But the sensory approaches for learning, honestly, it's the research is really up and down, and the research is not very conclusive. There's a lot of people that'll say, yeah, weighted vests are so wonderful. And then a lot of research that says weighted vests not only do nothing, they can be detrimental if they're used incorrectly. And then I see people using things like move and sit cushions and wedges. And I think for some children, those actually cause more insecurity with stability and cause less focus and attention. So when you're looking at sensory approaches, there's it's very all over the place. But I'll tell you something, you've got to look into the research on rhythm. Rhythm is, I feel like it's the golden key for our children, especially I think all of our children, not just our kids with special needs, all of our kids. So this is kind of my late in life mission, is to get this word out. But I don't want to just say rhythm is a good idea and we should be doing it. I want to see the data. I want to see the actual, real, quantitative and qualitative data to show what this does for your own children. And I would love for you guys to do this. And then we meet again in another, I would love to meet once a month to look at what does the data show. You know what, that's just a thought that popped in my head. I think a once a month meeting on what does the data show, and then you guys try some of this and you come back, and even if you didn't try it and you come back and then you say, well, because I know sometimes getting started with things is hard, but something as simple as the most basic simple thing is if you did 3 minutes of highly structured movement before writing activities, and even if you did it, really rhythmic movement has to be done very repetitively and frequently for it to really make a difference. If you did it once a day, 3 times a week, it's not really actually going to do anything. So it has to be done more often. But my feeling is, and I'm an OT I worked on writing and I've worked with thousands of kids over the years. I would rather take 3 minutes out of a writing activity at the beginning and do 3 minutes of very highly focused, highly structured rhythmic movement. And each time I do that, gradually increase the complexity and then actually measure those children's writing speed and proficiency and accuracy and see if it makes a difference. So I feel like we can add rhythmic movement because I know there's a lot of academic learning that has to happen and there's a lot happening in classrooms. But if you've got a 25-minute writing activity, take the first few minutes and shave that off of the writing, because then I think the next 20 minutes is going to be more efficient. My feeling. But how does the data show that? So Mary, can you please put a link to OM as well onto the slideshow? So one of the things that I did, and I'll share my screen here and show you this. And again, you guys, this is really a meeting format, not presentation. So I really would like for you to throw your ideas and questions in, please. Sandra, thanks for joining. I know you've been using this rhythmic movement program for quite a while, right?
I was going to say, I'm from New York, and I have not used the program, but what I'm happy in our schools that they've done a lot more movement. And that's become, definitely movement breaks have become important in every class, gen eds and special ed. But what I'm seeing now is when they're taking the movement breaks, a lot of times it's dance video movement breaks, and they're not productive movement breaks. And I see that they need the structure, and they need the unstructured, but they're using this unstructured time as, because we've been saying the kids need movement breaks. So I would love to be able to move and get with the teachers to present something that would be more structured and productive, which is
right. So there are thousands of movement videos online for kids, free, fun, exciting movement videos. But as you said, they can sometimes have the opposite effect. When you look at sensory regulation, there's so much that's important to do with sensory regulation and that whole activation and calming of the neural system. And it needs to be done in a very careful way. So what I did, and actually right before the whole school year before the shutdown, 2019, and then the shutdown in our area in about March or so of 2020, I had been going to and presenting at lots of conferences. That school year I presented at like 10 conferences in 9 months or 8 months or something. And it was crazy, but I was presenting a lot on the need for structured movement, but there wasn't, the only one program that I could really think of was Balovazax. Do you guys know what that is? But the problem is there are so many children with special needs that just cannot do that. It's too complex. It's far too complex. And they have little balls that they use and a lot of bouncing of balls and catching and rhythm. The rhythm is fantastic, but honestly, it's just too difficult for most kids. For typically developing kids, maybe not. Plus, you take a whole circle of kids and then you do ball bouncing. You just need 1 or 2 kids to drop that ball, and then they're all running around and they're chasing and they're like, I love the ball, and they're screaming and shouting and all. It's not a sensory regulation system. So then what I did in my home, and you'll see some of the example videos on the slideshow, I just put up a green screen in I took an entire room, took all the furniture out, put up a big green thing in my room, and I just started getting friends, kids over and saying, I'm just going to video structured movements here, and then put fun backgrounds on. And it grew and grew and grew. But I've got hundreds of videos online, but people don't really understand the value of what rhythmic movement is, and also the highly structured approach, the graded, structured, scaffolded approach. And so this is actually what I'm finding really difficult, is getting this word out, because I don't have a budget for this. I don't have any kind of a marketing or a, advertising, and it's all online for free anyway. It's not like I am trying to set up a system. Really, the system that I'm trying to set up here, I'll show you my screen. And I wanted feedback on all of you about this. So this is a mock-up. This is a mock-up. Are you seeing you're seeing the wrong screen. Okay, I just have to move this because I put this on the wrong screen. I've got multiple screens here. So you should be able to see this now. This is a mock-up. When we say, what does the data show? There are so many things we can measure. I mean, honestly, you could, if we all just brainstorm now, we could probably measure 50 or 100 things in a child each day. But writing and typing are two of the most concrete things that we can measure. Typing especially is very concrete, because typing speed and accuracy there's no evaluation, there's no qualitative data. I mean, to some extent there is, but it's all quantitative. Speed and words per minute and accuracy, you can easily measure with numbers. So really what I want to look at is, if you take a series of dates from, this is all just a markup, it's not real. It's not the real thing. But if you take a series of dates over a school year or a certain amount of time, and you've got certain movement levels and sound levels of video. So if you measure how often your children are doing these movement videos, and then you look at typing speed over time, or you look at handwriting speed over time, or you look at both, it's much more difficult measuring handwriting accuracy and legibility, but it's very easy measuring typing speed and accuracy. So this is what I'm trying to set up, is I'm trying to set up a system where you could, in the classroom, have 10 kids or 20 kids. It doesn't matter how many kids there are. You can actually have their names listed on the program. And obviously there would be all the student privacies that need to be built in would be built in. And the only thing that's really on there is your student name anyway. But anyway, you would have your students in your classroom. You would check off which students are there, or just check off the whole lot, or uncheck the ones that are not there. And then every time they do any of these movement videos, you would just check off that they did the movement videos. And then every time they do a typing evaluation, it doesn't even have to be a typing evaluation. It could be a typing assignment that they have to do anyway in the classroom. It could be typing they're meant to be doing. And then what it spits out over time is this correlation of, if we did this movement program a certain number of times, and you can see, again, this is just a markup. This is not a real thing, but this is the way I've visioned. If this is my vision of the way this would work, we'd start off with movement level, a low movement level and sound level, and do this number of videos. And gradually over time, you can see the complexity of videos is increasing, and we're doing different levels of videos. So over time, you're seeing the complexity of videos increasing, and you're seeing the typing speed. So the reason I wanted to meet and talk to all of you is that I want to figure out a system that people around the world could use, where they could do these videos. And for those of you that don't know what the videos are that I'm talking about, it's these rhythmic movement videos that I set up. Okay, I'm trying to move there you go. These rhythmic movement videos that I set up over the last few years. And if you look at the actual videos themselves, the follow along videos, they are like, it starts off on movement level 1, sound level 1. So all of these at the top are movement level 1, sound level 1. Then it goes on to sound levels, movement and sound levels 2 and 3. And as you go down the page, the movement and sound levels increase. And we're adding to this all the time. you know, you get up to like movement level 3 and sound level 3. And these are all, I'll just show you one of them real quick. Let's just do Neon Worlds here. And they're repetitive movements. Let me just make sure that the sound is being shared. So what you'll see on this is you'll see that by the time we get to movement level 3 and sound level 3, at the very beginning, there are very few visual effects, because what I'm really having in the beginning is having the child be very clear what movements are that the child is doing. There's a lot of crossing of the midline and rotation, and then there are multiple movements because it's movement level 3. And then later on in the video, there's a lot more visual effects and add-on effects and a lot of different sounds. So that's movement level 3, sound level 3. And then if you go to movement level 1, you'll see that the movement level 1 videos are much, much simpler. Like this is very simple, jump over the snake. It's very simple. Nothing much happening on the screen. Sound is very simple. The movements are very simple. And so, you know, I think this is really my thoughts is I believe very strongly in rhythm and movement and sound, all of those, but it's not really good enough for me to get on meetings and webinars and tell people about all of this unless we have a way of showing what the real impact is on your students. So I want to just throw that out for a quick discussion, then I want to show you a few other things as well. If you have any comments, is that something you think you would want to use? Is it something you could use? Do you have any other different ideas?
I have a question. Just this is the first that I'm being exposed to this. So when you start this program, so I'm working with pre-K through first grade. Is this something you automatically start with that first level for movement and sound and then work through a progression, or do you kind of judge where your kids are at? You know what I mean? Like, how do we start? And then how often, you know, I know more than once a day is ideal. You know, do you have a recommendation for how often it should be implemented, the more structured movement?
So I think that your first question about where do you start with this? I have some information online. I have, over the months and years, I've done lots and lots of webinars and free information sessions, and I've got to the stage now where I've done so much of that. I've now put them on as little mini online courses. So those are online if you want to look at that more. But even if you get on the website, you'll see there's information on the website about what it's about. And I have a lot of other videos apart from those, so you could get on and just look at all those. But yes, I think what you would do is you would just go as a therapist, you'd go and look at those videos and see what you think the levels of those videos are, and then see where your students, it makes sense for a kindergartner and a first grader to start at sound level 1, movement level 1. If you're working with 10 or 12-year-olds and they were a little bit beyond that, plus some of the visuals on some of those are really for younger children. So you would have to have the balance. I haven't got to the stage yet. This isn't widely, if this was a widely used program, I would put everything into, because right now it's movement and movement and sound levels that it's graded, but it's not really graded according to age appropriate content. So if you look at some of the earlier videos, some of them do have younger level content, and then some of them that are on the higher levels are more appropriate for older children. But I'll grow this more depending on whether people are using it. You know, I have at the moment about 1,000 people that get on the website a day, which sounds like a lot, but online, in the online world, it's not a lot.
Yeah.
So it's enough to make me know that there are people that are really using it. You know, it's enough to make me know that it's good enough that some people are using it a lot, but I need to just, I feel like for this to actually really take off and whatever, I just feel like people need to understand more about the value of why we would do this. And it's got to be far more than just a good idea. It just has to be something that you can see the real impact. And that's why I'm trying to grow this in a way that you could put your student names in, and you're not only showing how often you're doing the movement, but then what the impact is. And for now, the only things that I'm actually working on that I'm measuring is writing, because I think that's so concrete. But you could measure all kinds of things. I just am not able to, in this first time round, to add additional measurement for different things. So even just measuring time on task, but measuring time on task is a very time-intensive activity for a therapist or a teacher. Because if you're going to measure time on task, you have to measure it for one child at a time, and you have to sit there for 10 minutes and look at how that child is performing in a 10-minute activity, and you do all your tallies of time on task. That's a very difficult thing. But you can take a group of 20 kids, 10 or 20 or 30 children, doesn't matter how many children, every single day, and you can just literally, it's a couple of button clicks. You click on a couple of buttons that says these are the rhythmic movement activities that we've done. And then depending on how you want to measure, the way that I set up measuring, I'm going to share my screen here, but this time I'm going to share the correct one. The way that
I would just say real quick to answer her question, I have multiple age levels, and I have like a typical child on caseload. He's not have any diagnosis. And I started out with the very basic level one. And I'm like, oh, he's going to blow through these. It won't be a problem. But you'd be surprised how many kids cannot cross midline, can't coordinate upper body, lower body. So go through the level one first, make sure they can master the movements, and then go through it again. And then they have to coordinate it with the music and with the rhythm. You'd be amazed how many can't do it. It took 2 weeks. So I would say always start at the beginning and say, if you can do this and you can pass then we'll go to the better stuff, because they see all the cool neon and space and they want to do those ones. I'm like, when you can do these, then you get to go those. So.
Thanks, Sandra.
Yeah.
What would your other people, you as well, Sandra, because you've been using this program, how often would this need to be done each day for it to actually make an impact?
Well, I only see the kids once a week. So I do it once a week, and we go through all 10 of the videos in that session. And then we're like, okay, so you had trouble with this one and this one. So next time we'll do those ones again and practice those. And then when you can pass them. So I'm doing it once a week, and I'm starting to see improvement. And even on my, I have like a 4-year-old autistic kid, and she just watches them. She doesn't do them. She just watches them, but she attends. And once in a while I'll see her go. So she's getting it, even though it's passive, she's picking it up. So I'm going to just keep doing it and watch and see what happens, because I think pretty soon she's going to start moving more with the music.
Wow.
So
that sounds fabulous.
But yeah, if you have a system I can plug data in, I'm more than happy to give you that data, because I think this is very powerful stuff.
I think yes.
Oh, I just wanted to add to the conversation. I took a course last year, March, with Anne Buckley-Reen. It was motor issues in autism. And she was talking about kind of something similar, the idea of rhythm, like even incorporating very rhythmic music into the session, and incorporating certain movements or exercises to try and increase body awareness. And one thing that she showed during the course was she would have her students draw a picture of themselves before the session. And, you know, their body might be missing certain facial features or different things. And then after the session, have them draw a picture of themselves again. And there would be like more expression on the face of the person they drew, or might actually include the arms this time. It was very interesting to see, but it was just simple things like starting with the younger kids, the idea of like incorporating it into like the circle time at classroom, like the beginning routine, and just doing tapping on different body parts. And the biggest thing she pushed was making sure that everybody in the classroom is modeling that activity. Because yeah, they're not gonna, starting off, probably not participate, but the more they see everybody doing it and participating,
Yes.
that they'll begin to participate.
And I did the face drawing with my kids who are nowhere close to writing. And I did that, and then I redid it a month later, and you could see a definite difference.
Do you know how excited that makes me?
Yeah, it's beautiful work.
Do you know, I cannot even tell you how hard I've worked on this for 3 years. And sometimes I get so despondent because it's so hard trying to show people why this is important. I don't want people to get on this because I made a website and I want them on. I want to really see how this impacts learning. And what I'm seeing after the pandemic and with more and more technology, my background is I'm an assistive technology specialist. I've done that for 34 years. I've been teaching on assistive technology extensively, and it worries me that children are spending more and more time on screens. I hate that. So when you talk about, Julie, the whole like participation of everybody, I think teachers should be doing these movements. I think everybody in the whole room that's in the room should be doing the jumping over the snake and the jumping jacks and the star jumps and the, you know, crossing the midline things, and crank up the music, crank it up as loud as you can without bothering other people. Make it loud, make it fun, you know. And I want to create more and more, but I kind of need to just know that it's being used out there. But I want to have this data collection component. So when you talk about drawing, I just want to show you, this is on the same website. It's on Body Brain Tech as well. So on Body Brain Tech as well is not only the sensory regulation videos here, so I'll just enlarge this so you can see it. The two main components, the reason I call it Body, Brain, and Tech is because we first of all have to look at a bottom-up approach where we first of all look at the child's body and their brain and we get them ready for learning. And then we look at how the technology can help with learning. It's not just the technology is the primary part of how the children are learning. So then I also did a writing assessment thing online here. And so there is information about this. The child puts in their name. So I'm just going to put in Joey, and I'm going to say, let's say for drawing, okay, let's say a 6-year-old and they're not writing. So what you can do is there is handwriting and typing, which most people know as writing, but then I also have drawing. So if you hit start drawing here, what the child does, and I'm actually just going to do this because I want to show you how incredibly simple this is. I've got a scrap piece of paper here that I'm going to grab. Okay, where's my... All right, this is a scrap piece of paper. And so what your child does is, and this is so easy, literally a 4-year-old can do this. When they're on the screen, when I see all the things that kids do, oh, I got out of this by mistake. So I go to drawing. I've put in the child's name. So I hit start timer. The child does the drawing. So here's the drawing of the... All right, so here's my drawing. Silly little drawing. When I hit I'm done, then the child can take a photo of the page. This is not going to allow me to take a photo right now just because I'm on Zoom. But if they're doing it on, it doesn't matter what device, every device will work. as long every device nowadays has a camera, and children know how to take pictures nowadays. So they take a photo of the page, and then I'm just going to go home now. You know what? I don't really, I'm not really going to be able to show you this. I'm going to go home. At the bottom of the page here, there will be a report that you can either get and save, or you can email a report. And what the report gives you is, I'm going to, because I can do it, I'll just do it with typing right now, but it's very much the same with the drawing. This is a typing test, and then I hit, I'm done. And you'll see that there's a thing that says one of these done, but I can do as many typing tests and as many drawings as I want. And then I can send the report. But essentially what it gives you on the report is, the report will give the child's name, when they did it, how long it took them, and then on the typing it'll give a words per minute. On handwriting, it'll also give a words per minute. It'll also give you the actual handwriting that was done, and the drawing will be the actual drawing. But the reason I'm saying that is because your thing about doing drawing beforehand, and then doing the rhythmic movement, and then drawing a drawing afterwards, this is exactly what that system is set up for. It's just that with handwriting, you can measure the progress. Drawing is a very subjective measurement of progress. You know, you as a therapist have to look at that, and there's all kinds of standardized ways of measuring drawings, and draw a person and measuring that, and having actually evaluating that. But the fact is, there are very easy ways. Sorry, I'm getting all these. My son is studying at UCT. Natasha, you'll know where that is. And he's busy sending me lots of WhatsApp voice messages here. So anyway, this is what I'm really looking at. On my website on Body Brain Tech, I've got the rhythmic movement program that's highly structured. I've also got a very, very easy way, and it's very open and easy. You don't have to log in. You don't need an account. You don't need whatever. You just put in your student's name. It keeps it on that web browser. If you're on the same computer, it'll keep it on that computer for 7 days. But you can email yourself the report, but it gives you a way of doing the movements and then measuring the writing. But what I'm trying to do now is and I don't want to spend the time doing it. If I wanted to get your feedback, you know, is that something that you would use? Because it's going to be time consuming doing that. Would you use a system where it measures, it records the movements your children are doing, and then when they do their drawing or their handwriting or their typing or even their voice notes, it will over time show a graph of what the progress is?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Something you guys would use?
Justifies the service you're providing. You know, it would help me justify the service.
I think it's clear-cut data that, especially when I'm talking to a parent and they're like, well, I don't see this, I can show.
Right.
Here's this chart. So that would be much better than just my professional judgment in terms of, at least that's what I get told all the time.
Right.
They need data, not my judgment.
So the thing that I really need to do is I need to get a core group of people together who really want to use this and try it. And I'll make it available for you guys to use. And then if it's something that's going to be useful, then I'm going to make it a service online and charge districts for it. Because for me, it's not sustainable working as much as I am to do this for the next 5-10 years if it doesn't become something that actually generates some income. But what I'd like to have is a core group of people who want to work with me and meet with me just like this. Maybe, you know, I would probably set up a meeting maybe once a week, but even if you could make it once a month and meet like this, then I think that would help me know how to develop it and how to keep developing it. So I guess that's what I'm throwing out there, is that, are you guys interested in doing this? Is it something you would do? Is it something you would like to try with your kids and try with this whole method of collecting data?
I would absolutely do it. I just need I know I downloaded the parental consent forms and I'm showing them the videos, but there was some other stuff in your Facebook stuff and I couldn't understand it or access it. I'm not real techie. So just have to make it like stupid friendly.
So Sandra, you know what I'm going to do? Are you Sandra or Sandy?
Sandra.
Sandra. I actually need to do more of these kinds of meetings with that online group, with the international working group.
Mm-hmm.
I was going to do that, but then there were people in so many different time zones. So I think what I'll do is, Mary, can you please put a link to the international working group onto this slideshow for everybody here in this room? I started for this specific purpose, and I'm calling it an international working group because I do have people from around the world on this. I'm looking for people who would be willing, where they have good relationships with their parents and they understand this is a very professional endeavor. I'm looking for people who are running this rhythmic movement program. And, you know, I did a course a little while ago on a developmental approach to teaching writing, and I had thousands of people interested in that. And I just want to have, I'm not working with groups of students right now. I'm doing a lot of this content development. I'm just looking for students who are doing this, and I need videos that I can show people for training purposes, you know, so that's kind of what I'm looking for. And Sandra, I will do more of these meetings with that group of people, and then just hopefully whoever can join, and then I'll explain it in more detail.
Okay.
So I think that if you are wanting to work together with me as a core kind of a pilot group, obviously there's no what's the word, expectations or requirements, or, you know, if you get started and then you don't have the time or something doesn't work out, that's fine. I just need people who really believe in this cause, the idea of using rhythmic movement and measuring how it works. And I've got very concrete ideas, and really, I want to set up a data collection that makes it so easy that every classroom teacher will say, sure, I'll do 3 minutes of movement before every writing activity. And if I can do it with this online system where I don't have to do a single extra thing, all you have to do is get your kids' names in there. And it's literally going to be a checklist. So what it'll be is she maybe has 15 children. It can be like even automatically start with every child selected. And if there's 3 children that are not in the room, she just unselects those kids' names. She selects the videos that they're going to do, and then it plays those videos. Like it's all just like a checkbox. This is what I want to do. It does it. And then at the end, the kids log into their account on the system, and then they go and do a drawing activity or a writing activity. And then the program measures the writing and the drawing, and it keeps it over the whole year or 2 years or 3 years or however long they're doing it. I'd like to see schools implement this school-wide, so that if a child is in first grade, they keep going, second grade, third grade, fourth grade. And I'm planning on developing this more and more and more. So there'll be so much content, they're not going to run out of content. And as we see this really helping, it becomes more of a school-wide thing, because I agree with you, Sandra. It's not just the kids with special needs that need to be doing this. It's
All of them.
all kids are too sedentary. All kids learn these movements. I'm not even seeing kids touch typing with 10 fingers because they don't have the motor control. They have this control and they have this. Slide and tap and swipe is what they have.
Yeah.
I think too, we're just having a side conversation because Julie and I are actually next to each other, but it would be interesting or a nice discussion, because a lot of our kids aren't even at the putting a crayon to paper. You know, we're not even making marks on a paper yet. So figuring out a way to collect data. You know, we talked about time on task, but again, that's really time consuming. So figuring out a way to measure success with maybe those kiddos who aren't quite there yet.
Mhm.
So I have,
Yeah.
okay. Are you asking me? Because I have a great idea.
Yeah, I'm just putting it out there. So yes.
Like
So
my
I'm
one
gonna-
student who she'll maybe make 2 little ducks and that's it. But I mean, that's progress from the
Yeah.
week before.
Yeah,
She actually engaged 3 times.
right. That's amazing.
Mhm.
is she verbal? Can she talk?
Yeah, she's got a few words. Yeah.
So a few words, like when you say a few, like how many words?
Probably less than 20.
Okay. So that kind of child is going to be a much more specialized evaluation.
Mhm.
That's going to be more specialized, and we could talk about that, but I would say that would have to be a much more of a discussion about what you would evaluate with her. But let me just show you. I'm going to just share my iPad screen here, because if I share my iPad screen, I'm not worried about the Zoom camera and everything. So let me just get this up here so I can show this to you. All right, so this is on my iPad here. So under writing assessment, so if you don't have a child that is if you have a young child or a child that's really, so you're saying for drawing, she's not drawing anything, she's just making marks.
Yeah.
But you're saying you've already seen a difference in that?
I didn't do the drawing with her yet because I just want her to attend to the actual video. So the first time I played it, she kind of like was watching it, but not really. The second time she really watched it, and I saw her actually like move a couple times. So then I'm going to see her actually today. And so I'm curious to see if she starts doing more.
Those are the kinds of students that I would video record them, and then I would find something that you could tally up, like maybe even just the amount of eye contact time with the actual activity, or even those movements, like how often does she do those movements. So, and sometimes I really like combining the video recording of that as well as something on paper that's a tally. But when you have a child that's that level of functioning, you can't really do any of the more standard type evaluation. Not that this is standard at all, but if she's not actually doing any kind of drawing at all, then you're not going to be able to do this. But for children where their drawing is very emergent, you could do drawing. But the other thing is, for children who are actually doing anything with voice at all, doesn't matter what it is, you can do start talking. And what that is it's a recording of whatever their audio is. Now, if they talk with real voices, like I'm just going to say, I'm going to hit start recording. I like it when the weather is warm, and I like to go outside, and I like to play, and I like to ride my bike and play with my brother. So whatever recording is done, if there's real speech, if it's intelligible speech, so you can hear what the recording was just by playing the recording, and you can save the recording, and it'll show here that a recording was done. And what it should do is, after a couple of seconds, it will actually write up what the text was, depending on how intelligible it was. And we can actually make this happen in different languages. If people are going to start using this more, then I can make this different languages. But for now, it'll detect English. And so if you have a child with emergent speech, it actually gives you the words per minute, because it counts actual words. If it doesn't have real words, it's not going to give actual words. But this is a lot of data for emergent speech, because the more words are actually recognized and intelligible, the more it's actually going to record this. So I'm just saying this is a very, very simple way. I consider all of these methods, handwriting, typing, voice recording, speech recognition, and drawing, I consider all of these to be methods of writing. Even drawing, and I don't really necessarily only mean representational drawing, because even as students get older, they need to be able to do things like flowcharts and annotations and mind maps and diagrams and mapping and lots of things to do with drawing that I'm horrible at representational drawing. I cannot draw anything at all. So this little cutesy little drawing that I did of a man, this is kind of like my real drawing. I wasn't just trying to draw like a 3-year-old. That's the way I draw. I'm horrible at drawing. But when it comes time for me to, like, it's kind of funny because here's a thing, the scrap piece of paper I did here was talking about co-regulation and self-regulation and external regulation. And so my brainstorming always starts with some kind of a drawing or a timeline or a map, as bad as I am with drawing. So I think drawing is very important for children. And then voice recording, most children, not all children, obviously, but the vast majority of children have some kind of speech, and the voice recording part will actually, voice recording is the most mechanically, the least mechanically complex method of producing information. It doesn't involve motor skills apart from the speech part of it. But if you have a child that's talking, their ability to talk and show their ideas is far better for most children than any of the other methods of producing writing. So this is just 5 different ways that children can show what they know, what they think, what they feel, what their ideas and opinions are. And it's a way of actually measuring those things over time. And what I want to do is I want to have people infusing technology, infusing rhythmic movement into every single day. And Sandra, I'm very excited to hear you doing it once a week and seeing progress. Can you imagine the progress if it was every day? So I'm just wondering if there's a way, especially if we set up the data collection system, if your teachers would also do this with your kids every day.
I have quite a few parents who probably would do it. If not every day, try to get in at least a couple more times a week.
So that's what I think. If we can start actually showing the data, I think a lot more people are going to say, yeah, if it worked for that child, it's going to work for my kid.
Yeah, I'm really excited to give it a go, because I have a couple of kids in class. I mean, like, all of them is obviously going to do it, but I have a few kids that I would like to see how that is going to have an effect on them and see how they change. I'm very excited. I can try it every day.
That's fantastic. So actually, Natasha, I'm going to be in South Africa in September and or October.
Oh, really? Okay.
I'm doing some workshops, hopefully in Johannesburg and Western Cape.
Okay.
I was toying with the idea of maybe doing a workshop in KZN, probably kind of closer to the Ballito area, because I know there are some areas there I probably wouldn't want to go and do workshops. But I'm just saying I may be out there. So if I am, I would love to come and see what you're doing.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, that would be great. And, like, I started and then also introduce it to the school and see, because admin is always interested in something, because especially we're struggling, lately, I feel like a lot of children struggle with speech, and children struggle with like paying attention or just proper listening. And what's the other thing? Like fine motor skills, even though you do activities and that they're busy with, but still, cutting and holding a pencil properly, and all of that is still sometimes a problem in children. So more of a problem than what it was previously. So yeah, I would like to see.
It is much more of a problem. Our kids are losing their motor skills.
Yeah.
They really are. The manipulation and the ability to, and even just, I'm seeing things like fatigue, just muscle tone and fatigue is so much more of a problem.
Yeah, yeah.
And I don't think things are changing genetically. I think that children are spending far, far, far too much time in sedentary activity. That literally, I was at a middle school the other day, and it was so sad to hear this. Oh my gosh, it was sad. I was there on a day where the following day was a public holiday. And I just threw out the question, and I'm running a rhythmic movement program with this group. I threw out the question of, well, what are you guys going to do tomorrow? It's a holiday. It's a fun day. Do you know how many of those students said, oh, I'm just probably going to lie on the sofa with my phone or my iPad or something, or I'm just going to, you know, a lot of them said, I'm going to lie in bed and be on my phone or sit on the sofa. I was shocked. I was so shocked to hear what I was hearing. So I think kids are losing social skills. They're not interacting with other children apart from just online social interactions with that are not like normal interactions. So anyway, it's kind of my mission. It's my non-retirement plan. I'm moving towards what most people think of retirement age, but I just want to get children moving, and I don't want them randomly. They do need to randomly move. They need unstructured play movement. But what I'm trying to bring into this is, can we show that highly structured movement and rhythm and sounds really impacts performance and achievement? And ultimately, if children are achieving better, it's going to influence their motivation and their interest and their emotional, social emotional skills and all of that. So I think it can have, it sounds a little bit pie in the sky, but that whole gear effect, you turn this little gear here and it turns some other gears, and then it can turn some really big gears, which makes a really big movement happen. This is what I think we can do. I think we can start off with something that's very simple, infusing highly structured rhythmic movement into the school day, but we need to collect data as well. So I'm encouraged to hear you guys say that if there was a system like that online, that you would use it. My assumption is, if you think it's worthwhile, if I put that out as a subscription thing, that if school districts actually saw a difference in their children, that they would use it, right?
I would hope so.
Yeah.
So I think what I'm going to do is this. I think it's, for those of you that haven't used this program of mine, I've put on the slideshow a lot of links. Essentially, it's just the rhythmic movement program on Body Brain Tech, and then there's the writing evaluation. So even if you did something very simple like do one of those writing evaluations, whether it's handwriting or drawing or voice recording, or do a combination of a few of those, then start including the rhythmic movement program, and then continue doing those writing assessments. And I don't think you're going to see immediate differences, but over time, I think you're going to see differences. And I think if we can keep meeting, I will keep a list of all these people that are in the room. If we can keep meeting, we can talk about what we're seeing.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, definitely.
I'll show you this. I'm going to share my screen here again. On Facebook, I don't know how many of you are on Facebook. Oh, that's funny. It says join the group, but I actually own the group. Maybe I think I'm in a, wait, I must be in the wrong profile. Okay, let me just get to where I need to be here. Jackie, is it Jackie? Thanks for coming. All right, I think I'm in the group now. Okay, so this is the group. I'm going to share this. Oops, that's not it. Let me just share my screen here. This is the online international working group. And I think what I'm going to do, if you guys can join this, then I'm going to, and I will post it in other places. We're just going to have, I think this has been really valuable. I think having these meetings regularly, I'm going to try. It's probably not going to end up being once a week because I'm just going to not be able to find the time. But I'm going to try, a few times a week to have a meeting like this. And then I'll post it on all the different places. And then we've got your emails now from being part of this meeting. So if you're okay with that, I'll just send out notifications about this.
Yeah.
And then as usual, I always say this, I do have a feedback form on this slide show, because I know a lot of you didn't get to talk today, and maybe you didn't have anything you really wanted to say, but I do like feedback and comments on my I need to take that out then. I would like to have feedback or comments. If you had comments and you didn't share them, then just add them here. But otherwise, I think we'll be done because that's over an hour. And it's been fantastic getting some of you and your feedback. And I'd love to just keep meeting or keep talking about this.
Are these meetings or discussions going to be through Facebook?
Well, it'll be like we did. How did you hear about this, Julie?
Just literally right before the meeting from Christina.
So Julie, you signed up, right? So
well, I didn't sign up yet because it said it was, I think, going to make me join on again. So I can sign up now since the meeting is at its end.
So what you can do is, as long as we have your email address, we will send out, every time I have a meeting, I'll send it out on my email list.
Okay.
So if you put it on chat here, I'll just make sure that you're on the email list.
Oh, I can do that. Yeah.
And Julie, especially, you know, I really do want OTs and physio or physical therapists and speech therapists and parents. Like I really like having the different perspectives.
Mm-hmm.
And then as I'm doing this and developing this, I think that your input is very valuable because I can develop it in a lot of different ways. And if there's something you want to see for your students, I'll see if I can make that work. So Julie, where are you located? Because I think that's case.
So we're in like from the US, in Illinois, a suburb of Chicago, let's just say.
Yeah, you know what? I actually just did a workshop for you guys.
Oh yeah, I think that's how we found out about it.
Sayard Bass is the one who sent it to our entire co-op about today. So
who was it that sent it?
Sayard Bass. She's our AT specialist at our co-op that we work for.
Case, yeah, I actually just did a full day, not a full day, like 5 hours in person for you guys. Was that Case? I've done stuff for your co-op before. That's why when I saw the Case, the email address, I'm like, I know where you guys are. So honestly, if you guys are actually doing this, you're literally I don't know, 20-minute drive from me, because I'm in Streamwood in Illinois. If it's something you start doing, I would love to at some stage just come and observe if there are parents that you think would be willing to allow me to use some of that in trainings. Because one thing that I'm struggling with is having, you know, as an adult, I can explain stuff as much as I can talk until I'm blue in the face, but you can watch 1 minute of a child video and learn more than me talking for 15 minutes. Anyway, if anyone has anything else to say, that would be great. Otherwise, we'll be done. And then Natasha, we might want to keep in contact because I might be in your neck of the woods in September or October.
Definitely. Yes, I would like that. Yeah.
So I just want to make sure that I write this down. Any other comments? Comments, ideas, questions?
I'm just excited to start trying it.
Excellent.
I really want to start. Yeah. Please
keep in contact with me. You know, I'm really literally working around the clock trying to make this all happen. And it's harder to keep track of people and what they're all doing. So just check in with me. I'd love to know what you're doing and how it's going and what you're seeing. And if you are using the evaluation, I'd love to know about that, the online writing evaluation, drawing.
Okay. Yeah. Perfect.
And then we'll have
Yeah.
these meetings. We will do these meetings regularly. I must say, just having real people that I'm talking to versus just creating this all and putting it out there. I'm hoping this meeting's been helpful for you, but it's been super helpful for me.
No, it has. Very helpful. Thank you very much.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.